folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Angus. And today I've come to update a bit of history. Over the years I've documented a lot of the abandoned history to do with this old World War II training aerodrome here at Stracathro in Angus. But as I was driving past I just noticed these sheds at this site are totally gone, and I just thought it'd be fun to come and like update the history and just see what's left from a time gone by. Because I remember I documented these buildings, I think early last year I was here when these buildings were still standing, and it looks to me like they've either been burnt down or literally they've been bulldozed and taken away with what must have been a forklift. But it's crazy to see how this history has changed. Just check it out, folks. This is the old like officers' quarters here, and also airfield offices. This airfield aerodrome was in use from 1941 till 1948, and these buildings here are just like the last. Often there's a few buildings dotted around, but this is the last remains of like the headquarters of the base. And you can see the old entrance going up where this red brick is. And literally when I was here the last time, all these walls and stuff was still in place, and there was a long corridor going through. And that's why I love often coming and recording things like this. It's like World War II history that the next generation won't even see, because it's almost totally gone. In the videos on my channel you can go back and look back at the Stracathro Aerodrome and you'll see how all this was, because I can't even believe how it is now. Look at this, the last remains of the green paint. And just think, when they built all this, it was the height of World War II. I think some of it was constructed right at the beginning of World War II, and they used to do crosswind training like for landing here, because I think there was quite a lot of crosswinds. But actually online there's some pictures that the German Air Force took of this area, and they were actually calling it the Brechin airfield, because it's right near the Brechin area of Scotland. But there you go, folks, it is mad to see how much things can change. I can see how there's been little internal fireplaces in some of the rooms, and then I can still see the green paint up that side. But they must definitely be changing and developing this land constantly, and that's how I thought a short little segment in this video, I'll just come and update it, because if they come in here and bulldoze the walls, then the history is just completely gone. But they must have done some serious work. It almost looks like they've burnt it, so I'm not sure if it was set on fire on purpose, maybe to get rid of it, and then it's easier just to clear up the scrap. But all these buildings here were like also World War II related buildings, but I think as the years progressed they were used by this house, which is an abandoned little house, but I can even see the porch and stuff on it's been taken away. And then later as the years progressed, this building over here was actually changed and developed and turned into a pig shed. I think one of the last times I was here I actually walked down through all that and documented it. There is also the old generator shed and stuff there, which must have been used for powering all the lighting and things like that on this site originally, but that's more of a winter time adventure because you have to climb through so much of this jungle like terrain. But yeah, I love the way the old World War II buildings are, with the little metal windows and the amount of different buildings that they needed at these airfields. They all had their own use. Sometimes they even had decontamination rooms and stuff like that, because there was often chemical warfare used. Other buildings they had was like parachute rooms and things, where they would have sorted out parachutes and other items. But there's actually some interesting like bunkers and anti-aircraft positions dotted all around here, and they do feature on the channel. I have documented it quite thoroughly. The only things I've not documented is some of the original buildings still remain up at this local farm. But obviously we're not in the way of going into like private ground to document the history. But there we go, it's a little historical update. And yeah, I'm moving on to somewhere else. I'm not even sure where I'm going on this adventure, folks. It's a spontaneous bit of fun, and sometimes that's what I love about these adventures on this channel. Like, who would have even known it? It's World War II history, just about forgotten. And it's so sad that kind of things like that do disappear over time. Little remains of what was done to defend the country at a time of desperation or like uncertainty of what was even going to happen. Check this out, folks. For the second part of this adventure, I've come to a bit at the coast here that I was at probably like 6 months ago or something. I came and explored this abandoned farm here in the old farmhouse, but today I'm wanting to adventure a wee bit further than that and explore a wee bit of the coast here, because it's cool changing it up. This week's videos, we've been to the top of the highest mountains down to sea level here, and there's just crazy bits of landscape all over. But I was just a bit worried. I saw this, it says park at the owner's risk, and then look, this must be the last person that parked here. There's a shell of a Ford Focus sitting there. Maybe that's what happens if you go walking around here. When you come back, your car looks like that. Anyway, I'm waiting to head on in, but I have to be super careful because there is cows and stuff kicking about, and I'm obviously not wanting to upset any cows and calves, so I'm just going to play it by eye and just try and navigate through this wild land. Check it out, folks, the Skirdy lighthouse is in the distance there, which is one of the famous Stevenson's lighthouses. The Stevensons built pretty much all the lighthouses, all the main decent lighthouses. One really famous one near here was out called Bell Rock Lighthouse, built on a massive rock in the middle of the North Sea there, a few miles off coast. Yeah, this is crazy. The cows here get right down to the water's edge. That's how I'm being super careful. And I'm obviously not wanting to get stuck in between cows and their calves or anything like that. Look at this, there's an old kiln here, and I believe what that was used for is drying grain in that upper level there. I think this shed here was like used for the grain for the longest time. I might have to take another route down through there to get to the sea. I can literally see there's a cow grazing over here. It's the sort of adventure I might even have to just like turn back at some point. If it turns out there's loads of cows in here, or if any of these cows get upset at any point, I just need to bail out of this situation. Sometimes as well, cows can get boisterous. If they see somebody in the field, they can actually get curious, and then they can be clumsy, stronger than what they even realise. Yeah, I want to go right down to the water's edge and kind of make my way around the side. So I'm just away to go straight over here, straight across. Wow, check it out, there's the old farmhouse. That does feature in a video probably like 6 months ago or whatever I came here, and that's like a mad little 1800s farmhouse of its era. And there's also incredible like fishing heritage and stuff in this area. At one time there would have been fishing boats and stuff pulled up into this cove, and you can see the remains of that from the old fishing winch which lies in the land here. I have to be super careful here that the cow here isn't related to this one over here. Maybe if that's its cafe it would get extremely defensive. So also in this location next to this little cove is the old burial ground for the family that owns the estate around here. Ancient burials from like 1700s and stuff like that within there. And like normally when I've come to this location, the tide's been quite far in. So it's interesting today, the tide's way out, super low. And that was one of the reasons as well, when I drove past like Montrose Basin, I noticed the tide was way out, and I thought there could be some cool little bits of landscape here to document. You can see how it's all worn smooth here from the sea rushing in. Check out, folks, a happy Scottish cow out here. Yeah, this isn't actually, this calf here is about a year old by the looks of things. Probably out for its first season grazing on its own, maybe away from its parent cow. And imagine just chilling here looking over this landscape. These are some of the luckiest cows. Probably a good bit of meat off them. Maybe the meat even tastes different because the grass will be dealing with the salty air out here. I'm just literally on this bit between the sea and the land because I never wanted to come around here and startle the cow. And it's pretty chilled out, to be honest. I think the route that I came was just fine. The cow's just chilling there. And that's what we like on this channel, folks. We're at one with nature. On the way back I might try and go around that way and then back up. but I'll just hit to play it by whatever the cows decide to do. Whoa, it looks like there's a big channel in here. The amount of wildlife, I can see 2 oyster catchers flying away, but there's just so many different birds and creatures flying about out here. It's just an idyllic scene. And it's weird the way the sea's flowing today. There's no particular waves, but now and again it's just surging. Check out this bit here, folks. This massive, look at it. It's a huge big fissure that leads away in. It's almost like a cave at that end. Wow. This is mad to see. I'm not going to be able to jump across there. It's too dangerous for sure. Hopefully I can navigate around behind this cow without startling it once again. Just check it out. This is incredible, folks. I love pieces of landscape like this. Look at that, the way the water's eroded in through that soft fissure in the rock. All these pebbles have built up in here, probably blasted in from the sea. But also some of these pebbles are often contained within the rock, so when it erodes away, the pebble gets dispersed. And yes, we've made it. I can see how the fence here has been wiped out, probably from high seas. Because I believe whenever the storms and things like that, the sea can come right up to here. Look, the rock's been freshly chipped off all over here. All those clean pieces in the rock there. It's strange. This whole area here has just been scraped away, and I'm just wondering if that was actually, oh, the cow just about moved. I thought it was a way to stand up. But yeah, I wonder if these rocks have been scraped and chipped like that from the fence, blasting about with the sea. Oh look, the cow is getting up. Yeah, that's what it is, folks, a female cow. Check out this incredible show here, folks, of this alpine scene. All the different colours of the plants and stuff that grow at these locations. It's just special to see. And wow, I can see big ships and stuff sitting out in the water. It's an incredible springtime scene, almost summertime. Check this out, folks. In this area we've got these mad like solid rock plateaus covered with like sand and just other crazy bits. It's like the seawater must come into here now and again to this height. But it's almost like sometimes when you come to these places it's like going to another planet. And I love exploring rocky terrains, trying to pick my way through like a safe route, or just navigating through stuff like this. It's almost like the surface of Mars or whatever. Whoa, check this out, folks. This is actually a rock bridge that I was told about by somebody, and literally I didn't even think about it today, but I think this is the one that I was told about on today's adventure. I wasn't even like remembering about this, but now that I'm seeing it, I can remember getting told about it, and just, I can't believe it. This is incredible. Look at the way these rocks are, folks. Apparently at this area, when the seas is high, the water comes absolutely blasting out of this bit here. It's like a proper blowhole. Whoa. That's crazy to see, folks. I'm a bit cautious going that near the edge. Whoa, you hear it coming out below there. Blasting out. And then check this out, there's a hole going right down. Look at that there, the water must come flying up out this hole for the lower sections. It's mad the way the sea can erode away things like this. But the crazy thing is how pieces of stone and stuff like that can actually be left hanging like that. It wouldn't take much probably for it to drop on into the sea. I think when I'm here on this solo expedition, I probably shouldn't be climbing across that, even though it would be good fun. Probably this is all green here from the water blasting up in the air out of that hole. Maybe at certain tidal conditions we'll have to come back here for sure. Wow, folks, this is crazy. I can't even believe it. It looks like a crater hole in the land almost. And after the waves smash into there, you can see the water just pouring off the rocks. Obviously different heights of the sea, this will be a different environment right here. Sometimes it'll be ferocious. Wow, probably underneath my feet right now there's probably hollow areas and stuff like that. We're right at the edge of the North Sea right here, folks. Wild, unforgiving sea. When you see it on a day like today, it's proper calm, but at times it can get ferocious and wild, and probably when there's high waves, this is just an absolute madness here. Yeah, I see the water dropping, and then every now and again it comes blasting back in. But on a day like today, it's just super calm. All the biggest waves are crashing way out there. Yeah, because there's so much green, slippy like moss and stuff on it, I wouldn't trust the grip to climb over it today. And also, if I fell down it, nobody would even ken where I was, so it's definitely something I should do if I come with like a few folk or whatever. Wow, it's like looking into like the pits of hell or something in there, but it's a weird feeling with the water like swirling out and in here. The noise of it gurgling and churning. There must be a hole under that far side there. It's been crazy in this adventure to feature all that stuff, like the wee historical nuggets in Angus all the way back down to the wild coast. And that's what this video's like this week. The videos have kind of just been in the local area once again, but some weeks it's fine just to have adventures like this in between all the abandoned houses and crazy mansions and castles under forests. Now and again there's just something special about seeing something like this. Wild nature at its finest, and it's just crazy to think like that bit there is just hanging on in. Probably as the years have gone, this hole's gotten bigger and bigger with the force of the water blasting up. It's crazy when it drops down like that, because you always know it's a way to come flying back in. Probably some days you would have to be pretty cautious, like even standing next to that. Hear the noise of it there, it's ferocious. Anyway, I think I'll head around this coast just a little bit further and continue this adventure on, folks. So I've come a wee bit further around from like the blowhole kind of bit there, and it sounds like there's holes underneath the rock where I'm standing now, because I hear that gushing kind of sound as the waves go in and out of the cavern. Look at the colours of some of this algae and like seaweed or whatever that's been washed up, stuck on top of all those barnacles. You can often tell the standard tide line from the amount of barnacles stuck on the rocks, and then you get this kind of black rock at the higher level. Wow, the sea is starting to really swell right now. See, this is what I have to be careful of, because I'm unfamiliar with this piece of coast. Here I can see water flying up in the air, but see if you get a big tidal swell, it could come over any of these parts of rock. And often once you get familiar with a bit of coast, it's easier to navigate because you know where's safe. I think it would be cool though when the sea's ferocious to come back and check out that blowhole, like, 'cause it's often natural wonders like that are some of the coolest. Look at this too, this is where I was seeing the sea fleeing up in the air at high speed. You can see a minute ago it was way up at this height, and that shows what I was saying about the tidal surge coming in. There's often like a 3 or 4 foot difference. A minute ago it was way up at this height here. It's often like a natural waterfall after the tides come in. See, there wasn't any waves for ages, and then all of a sudden there was that big one. It was kind of churning and swirling. And this whole like massive plateau of rocks here that I'm on, this is all just a tidal area. And sometimes it's just interesting what's within that, because it's crazy to be on a piece of land which is 50% of the time like underwater land, and then 50% of the time it's exposed to the oxygen and whatever else is in the air. So it's a completely different like biome for civilization, or whatever type of animals may live within it. And sometimes I love looking into these rock pools. The water's so clear, sometimes you see little fish darting away into the seaweed once they notice you. Yeah, there's just proper massive rock pools around here. I really need to navigate cautiously here so I don't get trapped by the tide if it comes in. This is crazy, folks. This rock pool here, it's proper like bubbling up. The way the water flows into it, it's absolutely insane. All the water goes in and out of that little gap. Over the years it'll just be lowering and lowering as the water erodes away at it. But obviously the water swirls around there and churns it. I was noticing a cool bit at the other side here. It looks like when the tide comes up, it's like there's air bubbling out of a hole, which looks quite weird. This is insane, folks. See all the air bubbling out of this far side here, and then once the tide goes down, the water gushes out of the hole. It's funny when you see the water's just pure bubbling out of there. Look at it swelling up and rising. I better watch I don't get wet feet. There's so many of those anemones down there, the red type. Wow, stuff like that is just so deep and so dangerous. Look at this, folks. It's like a pebble beach area around the edge of this little cove. And I think this is as far as I'm going to push on round the coast tonight. But I just noticed this huge, massive chunk of what must be driftwood. Who even knows where this has come from? It could have been floating on the sea from an old like pirate ship or something that sunk out in the ocean there, out in the North Sea. Check it out. Massive piece of lumber right here. And you can just imagine if you were out on your dinghy and a thing like this was flying about on the water, it would wipe you right out. And you can see how high it's landed up on these rocks with the sea when it's been ferocious. But yeah, there's so many wee nooks and crannies around here with little interesting details of like the way the rocks have formed and the way the sea has worn into the rocks. The land bridge was special, and also there's just so many other crazy bits here. It's like big fissures in the land where the sea just comes like blasting in. But it's the sort of place as well, depending on whether the tide's out or in, you can have a completely different adventure. And there's so much to see when the tide's that far out. You see all the crazy like big rock pools and the deep holes. Look at this here, folks. This is one thing which is a killer of wildlife. And it's these party balloons. People let them go and they float away. And then like when I'm on adventures, I just see them lying everywhere. Sometimes they go into farmers' fields and stuff and the animals die. Look at that, folks. It's crazy how deep that rock pool is. The tide must come swirling in here and dig that out as it goes. I'm not even sure if we'll be able to see this rock like disappearing into the depths of the water. Yeah, it's just proper deep. Wow, it's just swirling and churning down under the water. That's probably like a good like 10 feet deeper, mare. Because I can see at that side the way the rocks just go straight down into the water. Whoa, this is insane. I can see some kind of creature there. It's like an underwater snake. Look at it. It's come to the surface. Look at that, folks. That is a living creature. What type of creature? Can you even see that? Like, right there, folks. That worm thing right there is a living creature. And it's swimming about there. It's come to the surface to see what's up. It's got gills on it. Look, it's wiggling its tail about. I have never seen one of those in my whole life around here. Wow. That is insane. Like most creatures in these rock pools. Whoa, there's another one. There's a crazy like worm infestation in here. Whatever type of creature that is, it came to the surface and look, now it's away. Whoa, look, it's coming back up. These creatures aren't afraid. I don't even know what type of creature this is, but when it sees you, it actually comes up to you. Look, it's going away again now. And look, it's coming back now that I've put the camera back. What? And there's another one there. Like, there's just so many of these things. What even is it doing? It's trying to get the camera. I just hope that comes out on the footage, folks, that you can see these incredible flatworm beasts. I'm always blown away by the things I see. In each adventure, I keep seeing new things. It's turning on its side, and it's the colour of it. It just rolled over. Wow, I could put the camera underwater, but it's such a stinking rock pool. I didn't want to do that to my camera because it's salt water, which is bad already. But then there's just so much grime in there. It's good to get that sort of thing on video though, so you can literally see the sort of things that I see when I'm out. If I hadn't had my camera, imagine trying to explain that to somebody. It's like some crazy worm with a flat tail, looks like a leaf. It's got little gills on it, it's curious. It's a happy, friendly beast, which I'm not going near. It's huge as well, it's not a leech or anything like that. It looks like it's got an eyeball on the tip of its head. If anybody knows what this is, get in the comments, like. Look at it moving about and stuff. It's crazy that I've been able to get this on footage. See, the crazy thing, right, if I go away, watch it. This is mad, let's do a test. If I go away, it'll go away. I've never even seen one of these creatures. This is the thing that's blowing my mind, folks. I remember last year I saw a couple of animals and creatures that I had never seen before in my life, and I was thinking, like, how many times in life can that happen? Kind of as you get older, you think you've just seen everything that exists, or any animals that you get around, and then boom, a whole new animal comes out of the depths of a rock pool. It's not actually dropped back down now, it seems to be staying up at the surface. Wow, folks, I just can't even believe that. I'll try and see what it does when I put something into the water near it. Imagine it just jumped up and bit me quick. Look at this, I'm touching the water near it. Here, it's so friendly though, look. Like, I don't even know if you can see it, but I'm flicking the water at it and stuff and it's not even doing anything. Wow, folks, whatever that is, get in the comments. There's some other weird creatures floating about, but I think they're like krill or whatever you call them. Or like other little critters that I've seen before. They look like almost like little prawns. But this absolute monstrosity here is a different creature altogether. Wow, sometimes it's crazy. I've just sat and looked at that for so long, and like, I hope it came out on the camera. I could sit and just look at that for ages and take it in. Because it has just blown my mind. We've just, on this adventure, folks, we've just seen an animal, some sort of worm or sea creature that I've never seen before in my life. And I've never documented one of them on the channel for sure. Now that I've gone away, I can see that it's swimming away. Which is quite funny because it shows that it's coming up to see animals on the surface. So is it trying to like latch on, drink their blood? That's why I didn't enjoy swimming in the sea ever. I always would swim in freshwater or rivers. There's too many strange beasts like that in the sea. It's like a swimming sausage flying about under there. But it had a tail like a little leaf. Almost like a browny, dark red colour, the length of its body. Mostly brown, I would say, with 2 light spots on it. But on its underside, it was fully like a rainbow colour. Like what you see on some fish's scales, but that was no fish. Look at this, sometimes there's just so much litter and stuff and debris scattered through. There's all these crabs and things that's lying about as well. Probably the seabirds are sitting here having a good feed, and they just leave the carcasses lying. And then look at that, just think where that bottle may have come from. Oh, there's a red thing crawling about on it, and that's actually one of those mites that you get at the coast. Check it out, see on the base of the bottle, it probably doesn't come out on the camera too well. That red thing running about right there, it's one of those red mites, and you quite often get them at the sea on those like rocks and things like that. I think they eat a lot of the old like decaying algae and stuff. So the person that told me about this rock bridge and blowhole in the land here has actually got a YouTube channel. And to say thanks for telling me about this, you should all go and check him out and give him a subscribe. And just comment and say BKR sent you. Because it's amazing to find places like this. And when he told me about it, I thought it sounded so cool. But I never knew if I was going to be able to find it or not on this adventure. But yeah, it is just fun. But it would be cool to increase his subscribers a bit as well. So if you search BNC Photography, one word, that's his channel. And yeah, he does similar adventures to what I do, but like obviously different places. It's a different take on things, with the added benefit of he adds like some interesting photographic knowledge and things because he's a photographer. But the videos are really interesting. I think my viewers would also enjoy that type of adventure. And here it is, folks. We'll take one last look at it before we bail out of this location. I'll see if the seas have risen at all since the last time I looked in. Yeah, it's still just splashing away. That is crazy though, the way that rock and stuff's just hanging on in there. And often the sound of the water churning and splashing, it's just crazy. But yeah, this has been one of my favourite things that I've seen this weekend. When you see an angle like that, it's just so cool. This is mad, folks. It's like when the sea goes out, there must be a hole under that side as well. Because I can see when the sea goes out, it's rushing out of there for so long. Wow, what a spot. It's the sort of place as well, you could probably chuck a couple of deck chairs down here in the summer and sit and have a picnic. And on a day like today, there's just hardly any wind even in a location like this. But it's at the time of year now, it's starting to get super mild. And this is actually an evening adventure and you would hardly be able to tell. It's just so sunny and incredible, folks. I just love exploring like all times of year. But sometimes at this time of year, some of the places are so overgrown, they're hard to even get to. So adventures like this are pretty cool. So this video's had it all, folks. World War II history, all the way to like natural landscape. And then now we could end it in here just about. I'm just about back at the car, but we could stick our heads in the door of this 1800s house. Often these adventures are like time travelling. Kind of go from looking at one thing to a complete different thing, and it's mad often just to imagine the families and people that lived in these little houses back in the day. It was such a different culture back at that time. Things have changed so much. And just picture this being the main farmhouse back in the day. And then this would have been the actual main farm over at this side. And the cool thing, I mentioned it because I did explore this place in detail, like I said on the way in, like 6 months ago. So today we'll just have a quick peek in for a bit of fun. But look, the old carts here from the old horse-drawn cart days. That would have been one of the bigger like farm trailers. Yeah, look at the roof and stuff. That's how it's crazy to document these places while they're still can standing to a certain point. You can get an idea this might have been the wee farm yard out here. This would have been one of the main crofts maybe in the area. And then just check out this here, folks. We'll just pop in there. Look, wow, I think this is more kaput than the last time. Look, there's something like rats living under the floor here. I remember this now, folks. It was like that the last time. I need to be so careful in here. If there's rats, me walking about on the floor could flag them and they'll come running out. Just check this out though, folks. This is what I want to see. Just check this magic. Imagine the person sitting in here getting a heat from this fire. Now it's just peace and quiet. It probably was peace and quiet back in the day as well, but it probably had the proper hustling, bustling goings on of the original farm. And this would have been the main farmhouse. And then it looks like it's had even electricity and stuff added to it as the years progressed. probably abandoned in the 1900s, maybe early 1900s. It would have been thriving in the 1800s for sure, but it could have been standing here from even earlier times. But this is actually like the best preserved end of the house here, where it's still got most of the roof. Through here it's just terribly destroyed. And I love the way you can see the original plaster work and stuff. It was so cool. The old Bakelite light fittings and stuff. Yeah, look at that. That's been like a bedroom or whatever in there with the wee fire. They all had different fireplaces. But with buildings like this, newer fires were put into the holes in the wall where the old fires had been at one time. And look at this. This is one of these old fires where you had, it was like an oven at the side which was hot all the time that the fire was on. And my granny actually had a fire like this in her house when I was little. And then to the side of the fire it's had the hot water tank. But there's been an even older fire in here before, and that's the massive lintel stone there. And you can see it's painted with everyone's favourite colour back in the day, the old magnolia. Below that it's got like some brown paint. And then right at the bottom it's that black paint, and you can see the layers as the years when the house was painted and done up. Things like that were changed and adapted. Wow, I wasn't even going to come in here today, folks, but it's just a bit of fun on the video coming into things like this. Maybe some of the viewers and stuff didn't even see it the last time when I was in here. This whole section here has been added onto the house when bathrooms and things were brought in, because most houses used to have like an outhouse, like we saw at one of the houses in last week's video. There was proper like outhouses. Look, there's one of the doors off the fire. And look, it's like the Bakelite handle right there. Just imagine the housewife or whatever opening that to get the bread out as they had their tea. The table was probably here with a big chunk of butter in the middle, and they would have had the soup made from the ingredients of the farm. Maybe a big chunk of beef. And then the vegetables that they grew in the farmhouse garden. And it's often just special to think about those little things as I stand in places like this. You just imagine the conversations that would have been had. Often in buildings like this, the farm kitchen was actually the main house, and they hardly would ever sit in like the sitting room or whatever. It was easier sometimes just to heat the one room, but then they were in here eating anyway, so it was just fine. They would sit most of the time. Sometimes farmers and stuff would even have the sofas and that in the kitchen, as well as the kitchen table and that there. But I remember even staying at farms of like some of my relations and stuff. We would often just be in the kitchen for most of the time. Look at the old front door as well here, folks. This is what we see on old buildings. Oh, I was thinking it was a double split front door, but it's not actually. So it's not like what we see on a lot of other buildings. Look at that, there's a snail just living up on top. That's the thing with these places now, they just become a haven for wildlife. I'm surprised there's no bee or wasp bites in here as well, buzzing about, because there's really been so much of that recently. Look at that, the old cupboard. See, look, here's the other entrance of whatever creature that is living under the floor. And even this fire's been changed at a certain time. I believe this must have been a bedroom though, for sure. Just think what items may have been stored within this cupboard at a certain time. It's just crazy, folks. Just different times altogether compared to what we're used to now in the modern world. Then back in these days, the electricity was probably just powering maybe a light bulb and a radio. Other fancy technologies hadn't even been invented. But the joy of having lights and stuff inside a house was such a novelty back in those days. And I love the way that the walls is that yellow colour, and it really makes the brown of the wood look so interesting, so cool. The brown of the door frames against the old walls. Anyway, folks, let's head on back out the way I came. I was just going to have a quick look around here, but you kind of what I'm like on these adventures, folks. I always just love exploring and like stuff like this. Even though I'd been in, I still wanted to come back. See what I'm thinking now? This has been another bedroom here, but a small one. And you can actually see how the wall's been cut out for the bed to be across that way, so there was enough space. So there's been a tiny little side bedroom here, and this must have been the sitting room here, I'm guessing. It is quite a small house overall, but that's often just what a farm croft house was in Scotland. Look at that, the old shape of the metal at the back of the fire. Well, folks, anyway, let's head on out of here before we get eaten by these rats that live under the floor. There we go. You can actually see how at one time the house has maybe continued on, but then it's been like sheds and that side mostly. But maybe the boy didn't even have to go outside the house to get to the sheds. Yeah, you can actually see it here. I was theorising that this part of the house had been built on separate, and you can see it here with this rough stone construction at the edge. It shows it was a little croft house which was then like added to and built onto, probably as the farm croft was developed and changed into the 1800s. And then most likely with a farm like this they would have just built a brand new bigger fancy farmhouse up the hill, and I believe that's what's up there. Wow, what a place, folks. It's just been incredible today. We've just seen so much. Even since I got down here, I loved finding that incredible like blowhole land bridge in the land, and we got lucky with these cows because they're quite tame, eating their grass. And then to top it all off, it was so interesting just to see this. Look at the wee window, maybe just for ventilation in the old shed so the cows could get a breather. And I love looking over this old abandoned ruins of the farm in the distance, looking on to Skirdy Lighthouse. And it's a popular walking area. From Montrose you can come out to Ferry Den and then walk right out to that piece of land. But today I've come down here obviously to Scotstoun Usan and parked. And I've just been lucky that the cows were obviously at the far end of the other field. There's only been these two kind of loner cows up this end eating their grass. Anyway, let's head on up back to the car, folks. What a crazy adventure. I always say that on the videos, but it's true. Like when I'm going through these places, often I picture the people within those houses when they were in their prime, and it is just like travelling through time often. There's so many little hidden nuggets of history, and once you look a little bit closer, it often just tells the story of the people that lived there. Or even, whoa, look at this. This is proper like worn out and collapsed in recently. Whoa, you see how at one time they've built way down under the ground with those stone slabs. It maybe doesn't come out on the camera, but I believe they directed the water down here, and that's actually an old dam there, and there's a wee lade, and this water would have been directed down for what would have been the water wheel powering the mill. And obviously this was where they were drying the grain of the mill. You can see the difference with the stones which have been at one time covered up compared to the ones which is exposed to the wild sea air. Another detail, you can see the building's been changed or adapted at a certain time as well, with those red bricks up there. But like everything we explore, there's so many layers to the history. Hundreds of years have passed, and often on these adventures it's my job to uncover the history and just keep it alive for future generations to see. Because as we've seen at the start of this video, with that wee World War II nugget that we explored, again, it was just crazy to see how those buildings have changed so much even in the last couple of years, and they're just about fully gone now. Another cool thing we saw today, folks, was that weird sea creature that was so curious. It was like some sort of worm thing with like a single eyeball on its nose. It was almost like some kind of seahorse or crazy creature like that. Check this out, the old, well, it's not even an old Ford Focus, but it's proper just toasted out here. So I'm not sure if it's been like abandoned here and then burnt, or it's probably been joyridden out here and stolen or whatever. Anyway, folks, that's me back at the car. It was a cool adventure, so I'm ending this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with the next one, wherever I end up going.